Thank you. I'll do that again. Hello and welcome to the next Ditch Witch Diaries. Today you're gonna get a double dose of me this week, obviously. Today we're gonna be talking about cacao, which is interesting. We've kind of talked about it a little bit in relation. I think it was when we talked about vanilla and we were talking about the sacral chakra. I'll put a link to that video up there. But it was just in relationship to vanilla. So this time we're gonna be talking about it all on its own. And so let me share my screen. Welcome to the world of cacao. I feel like there was a Portlandia that was like cacao. Like, was there like I feel like there was some Portlandia that had like featured cacao. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like it seems like
I can see it.
I have what?
I can see it.
I have this memory in my head about anyway. It's not in my research, so just so you know. So cacao is Theobroma cacao is the Latin name, and this is the botanical drawing. That's what it looks like in real life. And that's what AI thinks it looks like, which isn't so bad because to be fair, these yellow pods here do come in a variety of colors. So the parts used are the seeds, and also for some things, we're going to talk. One thing I have is about the flowers, so I included it. But the seed pods are pretty much what we're going to talk about. The other names are chocolate tree, cocoa, or food of the gods. And it got named, the Latin name Theobroma was named by Linnaeus, and it means food of the gods. So Theobroma is food of the gods. So the plant information. So the cacao tree is 12 to 16 feet high. And when the seeds are ripe, they rattle in their cover. So you can pick them up and rattle them when they're shook or shaken. And it's cultivated in large estates, usually under shade trees. And they'll develop pods continuously. So when the pod is ripe, it's cut open so the seeds and the pulp can ferment. And we talked about fermentation featured in our last one as well, about fermenting the cabbage. But this also goes through a process of fermentation. And then the seeds are pulled out and they're dried in the sun. So cocoa, when we get cocoa, it's made by grinding the seeds into a paste, and they use these hot rollers, and then you can mix it with sugar and starch. So that's how you get the cocoa, like a cocoa powder kind of thing. And it removes some of the fat in that process. If you want chocolate, though, you keep the fat in it. So cocoa butter, and we're going to talk about cocoa butter, also comes from the cacao, this whole process, okay? It's called oil of Theobroma, and cocoa butter is used in cosmetic preparations and lotions. I put it all over my belly when I was pregnant, and we're going to talk about some other in food products as well. So, yeah, and cocoa butter is the fat that is sometimes that you get from this whole process. So cacao is native to South America, but almost all of the stories and the lore is from Mesoamerica because they popularized its use in real distinct ways. And so people always say the Nahuatl name, and the one we actually used when we were talking about vanilla was and I think it is chocolat, which is funny because I don't think you pronounce that L, even though it sounds wonderful to do so. I was looking into it about how horribly wrong it was to do that, but maybe I'm wrong about that as well. Chocolatl, I just love chocolatl. Sorry. So that would mean Nawat is the name, not Nahuatl. Okay, so there you go again. But I love chocolatl. It's just too much. In fact, I would like some chocolatl right now. Okay, but really, I think the name in the Nahuatl language is Cacahuat, Cacahuat, which is like cacao, cacahuatl,
Mm.
cacahuat. So, and so the seeds are dispersed by birds and monkeys and bats. So let's just get into the lore, the stories, and the cultural importance. Let's start in Mexico and we're going to tease it apart in very distinct terms. So we're going to start more generally with general Mesoamerican or Mexican stories, and then we're going to get very more finite with that. So it's named cacao chocolate, and the indigenous cultures to Mexico and Mesoamerica used cacao in a cold beverage. So it was not hot, it was cold. And it was a really bitter beverage, okay? If it was sweetened, it was just a little bit, and it with maguey syrup. And actually, maguey is it's used in that it's the liquor that's made from it is mezcal, is the
Mm.
liquor that comes from maguey. But so it was sweetened with maguey or honey. And so then it went through a process of frothing. And so either they usually what happened is that they would pour it from one pitcher to the another and bring up this really frothiness to it. Um, it was used by the upper classes because it was expensive. Okay, if a common person drank this drink, it was a bad omen. So it was only drunk by the upper classes.
Mm.
And the cacao trees are in early Mexico or Mesoamerican culture. The trees were a metaphor for spiritual transcendence. In It was also known to be in many different traditions offerings. You could use it as an offering to the gods, but also it was offerings between gods. So like one god would give it to another god, or there was a story about two gods who had sat and drunk this drink together.
Mm.
So in Cholula, Mexico, the indigenous population made a cacao beverage using water, and they used knives that were used in human sacrifice and had been washed. So it was traditional to use the knives that had been used in human sacrifices. And also, heart and blood were metaphors for cacao. It was that important. So, this whole thing with like the knife with the blood on it and heart and blood, it was all like centered around cacao. It was very important. And it was, like I said, upper class. We're going to talk more about that. So now let's get kind of more finite. So in the Aztec culture, or nation, so during the Aztec Empire, like the seeds were used as coins even. They were actual
Mm.
currency. And so that brings up something important. Okay? So if you want like something for money, or something that like is good for using in like as a money item, like you might think about chocolate or using
Mm.
cacao, or even like imported cacao, like a really beautiful imported cacao might from Mexico might really be a good like money drawer, like draws like. So anyway, so in Aztec and Mayan societies, and I realized I added Mayan in here, but whatever. They didn't say the Inca. So in Aztec and Mayan societies, there were times when cacao was prized higher than gold even. So even more reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Aztec people did you had cacao ceremonies as well, but certainly not like the ones we're used to, because it was used as a way to improve the spirits of those being sacrificed. They would give in a
Ah.
ceremony, they would give them this cacao drink. Exactly.
Well.
So in the Maya civilization, so this is the hieroglyph for cacao in the Maya civilization. And in the Popol Vuh, which is the Maya book of creation, it says that cacao is one of the few ingredients used in the creation of humans themselves. So, in another myth about the creation of the world, all of the world came from a world tree. And guess what tree this was? It was the cacao tree.
Nice.
And also, there's this other juxtaposition and tying together of cacao and maize. So, they're closely related in Maya art, and they have the same patron deity. And they're commonly thought of as cosmically connected as like opposites that balance each other. Like they have all these things of why they're like this, but one of them that's just an easy one is that the maize grows in the sun while cacao grows in the shade. So cacao is considered like the dark and maize is considered the light.
That's also, you can like see that even in the coloring, right? Like maize is very bright compared to cacao, which is very dark.
Yep,
Hmm.
indeed. And in the Maya civilization, it was called Cacao. I love
Nice.
that. And even apparently, the hieroglyph that's what the hieroglyph says. Apparently, it's Cacao.
Hmm.
So, and so then we're going to go to the Olmec culture. And okay, if you guys know anything about the Olmec culture, okay, so let me just tell you one of like the fun little like thing is that they found these huge heads like in middle America. They found these huge sculptures of heads, like these big heads that kind of look like the heads that are on this the cup and the earring and stuff and the
Hmm.
headpiece. They found these humongous heads like that were just sitting in like with trees around them and sitting out there, and they're from the Olmec culture. Like that's the culture group that made these
Hmm.
heads. Just kind of fun.
Nice.
Go see the heads. So the Olmec culture, yes, it was from Mexico. It was all around Mexico and Belize and Honduras and El Salvador. And the oldest record of cacao use is 2000 BCE. And we don't know if it's because that's the earliest record or I'm sure it was being used before, but anyway, that's where we get is from the Olmec culture. So then we're going to go to Spain, okay, which is obviously, so who gets here? The conquistadors, the Spanish show up first, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
and they first start using the word chocolate because remember we thought that the word was chocolatl or chocolate from, but it was really in Nahuatl. The word is um cacahuat or caca, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like cacao, right? So the Spanish start using the word chocolate in 1590, and they aren't into the cold beverage. They create a hot beverage that we know as from the cacao, like cocoa. They create this like hot cocoa beverage. So this is where kind of that what we talked about with vanilla. So the conquistadors first observed Montezuma drinking cacao from a golden goblet, and it had vanilla in it as well. So that beverage they first saw being drunk from a golden goblet.
Hmm.
So in South America, they use the pulp instead of the seeds. So in Mesoamerica, they were use the seeds and they ground up the seeds. But in South America, they were using the pulp that was around it. So,
Hmm.
so then we get to Europe. Okay, so it's a late comer to Europe. It was exported to Europe via the Columbia Exchange. Okay, in the late 15th and early 16th century. So think about it. There was no chocolate in Europe like until this happened. That's crazy. But really like that's like not there. So,
Mm,
again, it's like vanilla. Vanilla is the same way. It's crazy to think that there was no vanilla and no chocolate, but they
yeah.
just until this exchange, this so it went along the Columbian Exchange. So I was like, I went down a rabbit hole. What is the Columbian Exchange? So it was actually a back and forth trade route from Europe to the Americas, and so they were transporting plants, animals, diseases. We know that diseases, like the Europeans wiped out populations because they were so
Mm.
gross and disease ridden.
Oh.
Sorry, I have an opinion about that. Actually, it's interesting because it probably wasn't like the Spanish probably weren't as gross as like if you read there's these set of books about what's her name? Catherine of Aragon. And it talks about how Catherine of Aragon was just horrified when she got to England about how dirty and gross and smelly that these people were, that they wouldn't take like baths. Like they took baths once a month, and she was used to a place where there were like people like lounged in baths. Like, and
Yeah.
so like the Spanish were apparently much more clean than some of their European counterparts. But
Mm.
whatever, they were still bringing all these European diseases back and forth.
Oh,
And
yeah.
ideas too. People and ideas were going back and
Mm.
forth. And it was between Europe, Asia, and Africa, and then the Americas. So there was like, it was called the Columbian Exchange. And then we get to the modern times. And it's funny because, like, we find ourselves in like witchy or metaphysical circles, kind of like involved in some of these modern cacao ceremonies. And what they are, you know, it's interesting. I really don't know what to think about them because it is such a traditional, like Mesoamerican practice. I mean, I haven't really found any like equivalent of the kind of cacao ceremony that we are doing, or not we,
Mm.
but like we as like
In
white
general.
metaphysical like
Yeah.
people, like even in this circle, like I asked AI to make me a picture of a modern cacao ceremony, and this is what it gave me. It gave me a bunch of white people sitting around in a ceremony drinking hot chocolate, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so um we do have like though a an interesting experience with a cacao ceremony, and it's actually from um there's a woman in our community who does breath work named Carmina, and I'll put a link to her Instagram up here to if I can find it to her. I don't think she has a website, but she does these amazing breath work circles, and she does before them a cacao ceremony where well, you can tell what happens. You've been to them as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've been to Carmina's and it's kind of similar. Yeah, so before the breath work, we basically just like pass mugs of cacao around and then we kind of just sit with them and then like breathe our intention into it. Which is really nice. I can't remember if I said this before we started recording or not, but um I have a friend who's from Peru who comes down here to Portland twice a year for a couple of months, and she always brings back cacao from Peru, and we do like cacao ceremonies, and it's very similar. It's about like it's very community building. Like that's the thing is
Yes.
like setting the safe space of like this community, and it's really nice. Yeah, it's like so from what I've been told, and you might go into this, you probably will, but it's very heart chakra related, which you had mentioned before, but that's also kind of why it's so community building, I think, is to like tie into the heart. But yeah, it's really nice. It's about like intention setting. And if you haven't tried cacao, it tastes a lot like hot chocolate, but like a really rich, luxurious, like just delicious hot chocolate. Most people would drink half a cup and then you just can't drink anymore, right? Because it's so like heavy and beautiful. But yeah, so I think that it's about community building, setting the space, and then like pouring our intentions, because oftentimes in the cacao ceremonies that I do with my friend, we do it before breath work too. So yeah, it's really
Yeah.
nice. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's lovely. And I was
There's
at, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I don't know if you talk about this, but do you talk about the song?
No, what about, no, what song?
Okay, so I didn't know this. Like Carmina hadn't really said this. I don't know if she does it or not, but my friend who's from Peru, she says that there's this song that they sing in Spanish, and when you're preparing the cacao, because it's not just cacao, it's like she puts like coconut fat, like coconut milk
Yeah.
fat in it, and then like some spices. And so she says as you're making this mixture, you sing to it, you sing to the cacao. And so we sing this song. She sings it while she's preparing it, and then we sing it before we drink it. And it's in Spanish, so I am not even going to try to repeat it, but it's basically saying like, cacao is the medicine for my body, it's the medicine for my heart, and like it cleanses me and it cleanses the space. And it's like, it's a really beautiful, like it's like a
Wow.
chant. It's really nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I didn't
if you
know about the
haven't ever
song.
done a cacao ceremony, I suggest it. You enjoy it too, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
I thought it was
nice.
great. I thought, and I
Yeah.
very community building and like
Mm,
Carmina always suggests that we make intentional eye contact with each other, which is can
yeah.
be difficult for some people. Like I'm not a big
Mm,
eye contacty person, so it's a little bit difficult for me sometimes. So you can sit on an end where you don't have to make as much eye contact. Like every time the cup is
just
passed,
like when you pass it, yeah.
yeah, when you pass it, you make intentional eye contact. So,
Mm,
but then it builds like the energy between people as well. So that's like
mm-hmm.
part of the thing too. So
Yeah, start there.
before
See,
we, yeah, before we go on to the magical properties, I also want to say that like I found a whole, like when I was looking for like cacao ceremonies, like I found a whole lot of people like for lack of a better word, peddling classes on how to do these, like for
oh,
a lot of freaking money. Like,
really? For cacao?
yes, like a lot of
Mm,
freaking money. And like I didn't see any of them like that were native people or native
mm,
Peruvians or anyone that was like they were like I tried to like click in to see who these people were and like who, that were like I mean really like shocking amounts of money. I was like, well, how much is it to take this cacao ceremony class? You know, it was a
mm.
lot, hundreds and hundreds of
And especially not from somebody native to that region. That's like outlandish.
yeah, like I was like, interesting, whatever. And so it's, I mean, maybe, but I don't know. It was just
Mm,
a thing, and I would be interested in I it because when I looked up modern cacao ceremonies or cacao ceremonies in general, it was
mm-hmm,
my feed was so filled with like things like that, like these classes or like events that were being held by like these people. Like I just didn't see any information on
mm,
the cacao ceremonies that were possibly being held in like modern Mexico or modern El
mm,
Salvador, modern Peru. I didn't even it was just not like Google feed is inundated with them. So
mm.
just that's my experience. And so I would be interested in seeing like I love that you had that story about with the song and stuff
Yeah.
because it gives us some perspective, like where this is coming from, and I really enjoy it. And anyway, so there's that. So correspondences. So we have different. This is another thing. So this kind of like what I found about the correspondences is broken down based on like the like what like white milk, dark, and cacao nibs. Okay, like all of it was, and this will be
Mm,
a theme going forward. So white chocolate is associated with water. Milk chocolate is water and earth. Dark chocolate is water and fire, and cacao nibs are fire. So
mm,
interesting. I know. Kind of like it. I'm kind of into it.
yeah.
So the planet, again, we have it broken down. Like white is Venus, Milk is, I don't know why, is Venus and Earth as a planet. Dark is the Earth and the moon. And cacao nibs is either the Earth, the sun, or Uranus.
Hmm.
The astrological sign is kind of the same we got going. White is Pisces or Aquarius. Milk is Cancer and Libra. Dark is Scorpio, Virgo, and Aries. And cacao nibs are Scorpio and Virgo. So the chakra, again, we've got the same thing, like white. So white chocolate is associated with, or white and milk chocolate are associated with the heart. Dark chocolate is the heart and sacral chakra, and cacao nibs are sacral and root chakra. And the Sabbat and rituals. So, of course, we talked about cacao rituals, but also marriages, births, baptisms, funerals, even ritual sacrifices, as we saw. So the goddesses, and this is the one we saw, is 13 serpent from the Mixtec tradition, and cacao, I don't know how you pronounce the X. So is the goddess of abundance and gave agriculture to the earth. And Ixchel, which is the Mayan moon goddess. So now we go onto the magical properties. The magical properties are an aphrodisiac, interesting, and it's supposed to calm restless spirits. It's supposed to be euphoric, and especially euphoric for women. So you can put it in your bath to improve emotions and ward off depression. It's also tied to love, and it calls to spirits. It's also, of course, for friendship, community, and bonding, like we saw in the other tradition, in the ceremony. So then we can break this down into the different. So first of all, I want to tell you what white chocolate is. So some people say it doesn't contain cocoa, but it does. It contains cocoa butter. So it contains that fat from the cacao. So it's the vegetable fat that comes from cacao is what cocoa butter is. Okay. So, and if you use white chocolate, it can be used for friendship, self-love, fun. Milk chocolate. So milk chocolate contains smaller amounts of the cocoa solids than dark chocolates do. And as with white chocolate, it contains some of these milk solids, these cocoa butter solids. It's good for friendship, again, self-love, again, nurturing, and just love in general, and balance, and fun. I love fun. Fun. Chocolate's always fun. I know, I want fun magic. I know, I need some magic that's fun. And also it's supposed to raise your emotional energy. So I'm all about raising your vibration. So dark chocolate is chocolate that's made, it has more of these cocoa solids in it than milk chocolate. And it also has cocoa butter and sugar, as does the milk. So this is good for love and romance, grounding, prosperity. Okay, and then we get to cocoa nibs, which cocoa nibs are supposed to be nature's chocolate chips. And they're really just crushed pieces of the cacao bean that have gone through the process of fermentation and drying and roasting. That's what cocoa nibs are, in case you didn't know. And they're good for grounding as well. So you can see how they're also related to the root chakra too. Prosperity, of course, prosperity. So I love that this is all prosperity. And ancestors as well. So medicinal properties. Like chocolate or cacao is an antioxidant, a diuretic, an emollient, and a stimulant. So cocoa butter is used as a coating for pills. It's also in the preparation preparations for suppositories. It's what softens the skin. Like I said, when I was pregnant, I rubbed it all over my belly because it's supposed to prevent stretch marks. So when I was pregnant
I
and
used to make I
yeah,
used to make this lotion. It was like I would whip it, so it was like a whipped lotion, and it was cacao butter, cocoa butter, and shea butter, and then I would mix it with some um, jojoba oil, and
mm,
it was so nice. I like it a
mm,
lot.
nice.
Cocoa butter is so good.
It's also good for the kidneys. So it's supposed to stimulate the renal epithelium to produce the diuretic effect, which probably just makes you pee more. So you
Mm.
gets rid of water buildup. So for heart and blood issues. So for high blood pressure, it's often given with digitalis because it dilates blood vessels. It's supposed to lower your cholesterol, reduce the risk of stroke. Some more. It's high in magnesium and iron. And so, like I hinted at, there was one thing about the flowers, and the flowers are supposed to help fight fatigue. But so is chocolate in general. So chocolate
Mm.
has little bits of caffeine in it as well. Not much, but some. So dark chocolate, okay, if you've heard it, dark chocolate is supposed to be good for your health. And so people say that all the time. It's my excuse for eating it endlessly. I'm a sucker for dark chocolate. Like I like that dark chocolate lovers bar from Trader Joe's so much. Like it just is like it kills me. I could eat it like all the time and it is bitter. It's not like super
Mm.
sweet at all. So it's supposed to be an antioxidant and good for longevity. It's good for hormonal regulation and it brings about some happiness. How could it not? It's so happy. It's supposed to also strengthen the immune system. And that's it.
Can
That's
I give you a
yeah.
little bio lesson, like real quick little mini lecture on like
Sure. Hold on.
chocolate?
Let's stop the share. So go ahead.
Okay. So, I talk about this in my class. So we have these neurotransmitters in our brain called anandamide, and they're basically chemicals in our brain. And so all of the neurotransmitters have a receptor site and that it goes into. And the receptor site for anandamide is called cannabinoid. So we have these receptors in our brain that are called cannabinoid receptors. And so THC basically like mimics this chemical. And so when THC gets put into our anandamide receptors, it releases dopamine and it makes us very happy and carefree. And that this is like where the high we get from THC.
Uh-huh.
Chocolate actually has anandamide in it. And
Oh,
so chocolate and THC both increase our dopamine. And so that's why a lot of people feel better after eating chocolate. Obviously, it's at very different levels. Like it's much smaller compared to THC, but
well, you
it's the
don't know
same
how much
thing.
chocolate I'm eating. Okay. Because I eat a ton of chocolate like every day, like way more than an ounce a day, I think.
uh, yeah, so it's pretty cool. So when people said, like you were saying, when people say like, "Oh, I feel better after eating chocolate," it's like a chemical thing that happens in our brain. It like releases this dopamine, which is our feel good chemical. So it's pretty cool. So we have like a whole receptor that's basically for like chocolate and THC.
Nice. I have no excuse for my soft serve ice cream. Like I have That's the other thing when I'm
Oh, that's
really
funny.
feeling sour or sore. Like
Yeah.
I go and it's horrible. Like I'm obsessed with it. And I go to like the worst place. So I will admit to it. Like I love me a like McDonald's soft serve. Like I go get a cone. I just want a cone. And I like always zip through everybody else. Like I go through the line and I'm
Yeah.
like, all I want is a cone. And they're like $3.02. And I zip around. Like literally, I could eat. I
Um,
have to restrict myself. Like I don't restrict myself from the chocolate. Like I'll buy that dark
yeah.
chocolate any day. But I super have to restrict myself from that. Like oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with it. I love soft serve. I love
Um,
vanilla soft serve. It's just too
yeah.
much.
I do
A
too. We
vanilla
have
and chocolate. What?
right? We have a it's rare to find a vegan soft serve, but there is a place out here that has it, and it's so good. Oh man, I love soft serve as well. It's so much
Oh,
better than like real ice cream.
it is. It is. It's so like there's something so
Um,
satisfying about the lick
yeah.
of it. I can't even tell
Mm-hmm.
you. And like the turning of there's something so
So good.
satisfying about it. I just can't get over it.
Yeah.
Anyway, go out and run out and get yourself chocolate and get yourself soft serve and have a happy life.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff if you enjoyed this. And we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.